is a special video because once again I attended Frightfest this year in London, and the Woodstock of horror, as it's often called. There were a few special older screenings this year and some special anniversary screenings just to sum up the flavour of it. And the biggie was, of course, they had a screening of The Exorcist. And that,
oh, nice.
So that was on the closing night, and it's the 50th anniversary, of course. That's why they were showing that. And film critic Mark Kermode, who famously is a massive Exorcist fan. It's his favourite horror movie. It's his favourite movie, full stop. And he did a special introduction for that. So he was there. He's one of those, he's associated with horror, so he appears a lot anyway at the festival. But they did have a special intro for that. So Exorcist, to mark the 50th anniversary, was screened at the festival. More recent one celebrating anniversary, but it just shows you how time flies. Is It Follows is now 10 years old, which is unbelievable.
Really? Wow. Yeah, it feels like that one was only just released yesterday. Wow.
Yeah, I remember seeing that. I was at uni at the time, but yeah, that's 10 years ago. It's a film I need to revisit, actually, but yeah, that was shown at the festival. And also The Conjuring, unbelievable. That's 10 years since that. And again, that's one I remember in the cinema. And we've covered those, the original 3 movies anyway, on this channel. A few documentaries, like the film Society had a documentary.
Oh, that's Society.
A bit cult. Yeah, that's a bit of a cult, classic, I'm going to say, very trippy movie. And yeah, that documentary could be fun. Oh, definitely trippy. The first movie I saw is a German film which is called The Dive. You have 2 they're partners but long-term friends, and they both have grown up doing scuba diving. So the premise for the movie is that they're going scuba diving and something goes wrong, and one of them in particular is stuck and she's got limited amount of oxygen, so it becomes that sort of horror where the other one has to try and help her, has to try and figure out ways for them both to survive, but to help her in particular. And she does various things over the course of the movie. So at one point she goes up on the land, she goes to this place near the shore where it turns out no one's home, but she leaves a message for them, hoping that they might come home in time. And just as things ratchet up, the stakes are raised where it gets to the point where one of them might have to leave without the other one. And it's one of these movies, it plays very much on the relationship between the character, because they go into the movie where their relationship is a little bit on the rocks, and excuse the pun, but and it becomes a thing as the tension builds and the drama builds, because they make a big thing of it, how one of them, I guess it's almost like a metaphor where she's not so keen on the idea of doing the scuba diving. It takes the premise very seriously, because it's one where it does go. And I'm a novice, so I have no idea about this stuff. But it seemed pretty realistic to me, the stuff they were going into and the science of it. It seemed, and I think a lot of times with these movies is you do get the more silly, cheesy type ones where they're not really bothered about the rules, and So there's a lot of bad examples. So this overall, I would say, is a very solid movie. The 2 actresses were good in it. The underwater photography I thought was good. And I think at times maybe it gets a little bit repetitive just because they're sort of doing that thing of they're going into the state of mind and they're going through, I think, the repetition which people have when they get into these states. And because of that, there's 1 or 2 scenes where they kind of do a very similar scene, and it gets a little bit repetitive, but as the movie goes on, I definitely got more into it and more into the drama and suspense of it. And yeah, I was impressed at how straight they played it. I think people were a bit mixed on it from what I heard, and maybe it's just that thing of they played it a bit too straight for some people. Like maybe they wanted a bit more of an entertaining horror movie, especially at a festival. So it's a bit slow getting going, but once it got going, I enjoyed it. Like I thought it was an impressive, suspenseful movie with a couple of strong performances, and they also did this thing of they revealed more about the character's past as it went on. Like they sort of worked in like flashbacks, I think, because of the one who was suffering from the bend, so she had flashbacks through that, and I think that was quite a good way to do it, to give you a bit more context. So a solid movie, I'd say, overall. Definitely one that's worth watching. And I think if you're kind of sick of this kind of movie where they don't take the premise that seriously, or when it's just filled up with really annoying characters and you don't get a lot of suspense, if you want one where it runs with the premise a bit more and takes it a bit more seriously, then this one could be for you. So that's called The Dive, and look out for it. I got the impression it's sort of thing that you could find, when it does get released.
The premise sounds like 47 Meters Down, like a similar premise. Did you ever see that one?
Yeah, that was pretty bad from what I remember.
Oh yeah, that one was not a good movie.
I remember
but it reminds me of that
hating
premise.
the twist as well, but it is a similar premise. So,
but this one's got one of the actresses, Sophie Lowe. She's an Australian actress. I've seen her in a few things. Yeah, she's quite good.
Yeah, because that's the thing. Even though it's German made, like they do actually they talk in English. So that's the thing. Okay, so maybe that's why, because you had sort of mixed casting. Okay, interesting. Yeah, worth checking out. Solid sort of 3-star movie, I'd say.